Test public comment microphone.
You want my mic off, and this was the one I used. So this, yeah.
Time is 6:30. I'd like to call this regular Board of Education meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to ask our Secretary Goodrich, if you could please conduct the roll call for those Board of Education members who are present.
Certainly, Madam President. Trustee Townsend.
Present.
Trustee Fields.
Here.
Trustee Schindler.
Here.
Trustee Gainsley.
Here.
I am here. Vice President Lee.
I am here.
President Hawkins.
Here. Thank you. All Board of Education members are present. Next, that takes us to the Pledge of Allegiance. And at this time, I would like to invite the Board of Education and all the members who are here for our meeting to join us in reciting of the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Next, that takes us to our closed session pursuant to Section 8F of the Open Meetings Act to review and consider the content of an application for employment. At this time, is there a motion for the Board of Education to go into closed session?
Madam President, Vice President Lee, move that the Board of Education go into closed session pursuant to Section 8F of the Open Meeting Act to review and consider the content of an application for employment.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Vice President Lee. Is there support for this motion?
Trustee Schindler, support.
Supported by Trustee Schindler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We will convene into closed session. The time is 6:33, and we will leave and come back to this room and conduct the rest of our business for this evening. The time is 6:49. The Board of Education is back in open session. At this time, this takes us to the acceptance of the agenda. Do we have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
Madam President, this is trustee Schindler. So moved.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Schindler. Is there support for this motion?
Madam President, trustee Townsend, support.
Supported by trustee Townsend. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to our first presentation for the evening. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Zachary Ross.
Thank you so much, Madam President. During the year, we know that this board chooses to follow the MASB field book, and that field book really directs all districts in the state of Michigan. And I appreciate the fact that there's periodic times throughout the year in which we look at our data, we look at school improvement, we inspect how we're doing with finances. And tonight, this is the first presentation is our MICIP, the Michigan Continuous Improvement Process presentation by Dr. Carlos Lopez. He'll be sharing a PowerPoint that we'll share with you, but also here on the screen. We have them sitting on the side today to make it where they can work and view the screen and work together. So Dr. Lopez, thank you very much.
I have a great pleasure of presenting for you the MICIP and give an update of where we are as a district. So the outcome for today will be to review. So what I hope that we gain today is an understanding or an overview of the district's MICIP plan. You will walk away with goals, understanding our goals, our end target, our interim target, and our strategies. And I'm also going to be able to give you an update today about a few other initiatives that are taking place that is of interest to the board and everyone in the community. Number one is our FACE conference and back to school bash, which it's going to be an event that we're going to put together. The Boots on the Ground campaign that we use for walking and communicating with our community, as well as for recruitment of students. And the DC3C3 pathway, which is a collaborative that I'll speak on today, with Washington Community College, and the AASA power of partnerships that we have. So
Dr. Lopez, can you pause? Board, I wanted to make the connection. Part of when you look at that MASB field book, it asks us as the district administration to not only share the continuous improvement process, but also include how it connects to our community outreach, to our community partnerships. So this is that piece of the assessment or the feedback to the board of the continuous improvement process in connection with our partnerships.
as you are aware, as part of our membership here in the district, these are the stakeholders that are engaged in our district's process of the continuous improvement process for the district. And so we have representatives that are, that participate from our district throughout the year in this process. And here's our YCS, as you're aware also, the district has gone through a whole perspective of and the proposed revision to the YCS mission statement as it's listed up there is under consideration and we adopted. And as soon as this is adopted, then this will be the new vision statement for the district. And I really like leading with the vision because you can't lead school improvement without that vision, right? And our goals cannot be aligned without aligning it to the vision of the district, the vision and the mission. In our pursuit, where did we leave off, especially since the last session where I presented on MyKIP? Going really fast, I'm very visual, so I designed this and MyKIP put it together. People from the MyKIP My Excel blueprint were able to put it together and design this for us based on my drawings, my little chicken scratch. But as you look at everything that's been circled, that pretty much outlines the journey that this district collectively have gone through. We are now at the bottom where it says exploration, installation, and then I can't read it from that far, but initial implementation. And what this means is that we are in the process that we've been working on putting the systems in play, and we're making revisions and modifications as we go along the way. So this gives us a little bit simultaneously. I need you to understand that even though we're working right now for the 21-22 school year at the bottom, we are also simultaneously back at the top for planning as we're carrying the work, which work is going to carry for 22-23 and which ones will be modified, et cetera. So we are simultaneously working with the teams in both for this year, accomplishing this year and next year as well. Okay. And that's always the journey of school improvement. It's a work in progress. The difference between MyKIP and any other school improvement throughout the state of Michigan is that this is a live document that can be modified at any point in time as we need fit. So this allows you an opportunity to make those changes and be able to move and make notation and document and keep the state informed at all points in time of your journey. So the YCS 22-23 top priority focus for the district is we have made this our #1 goal for the district. And it is also the focus for the district. And I will read this one. I don't like reading stuff, but I'm going to read it anyways. If we are substantially to improve the quality of teaching and learning of both teachers and students, and thereby significantly advancing the learning for all YCS students, then we must be intentional about ensuring that all Tier 1 instruction is the main focus, and that Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions are aligned to support our learners and improve student achievement. We have made a genuine commitment in this district to this work. All our school improvement process is all wrapped around this core vision that we have, or goal, okay, or focus for the district. In the process, to get this done, of course, there has to be some work that we work around. So our staff from August all the way, and this has been since I've joined in, is the focus has always been on aligning priority standards. Our priority standards have been on RAP. Our teachers know them. They teach them with fidelity. There's a pacing. We have a pacing for our instructional curriculum, and our teachers are up to speed with that. And if they're not, they get support, coaching, the instructional coaching, all this. Teacher collaborative routines. These are the teacher action and student action, so that when our principal walks into a classroom conducting a walkthrough, they see the teacher action and the student action to make sure they're aligned and they're focusing the vision that we have for the district. Then you have the student engaged assessment protocols. Think about those protocols that you use to work with others. We have student for inquiry, for science, social studies, all core areas, ELA. And then, of course, we venture into the formative assessment, and this is key for us as a district because we have a partnership with the MDE, FAME, which is the formative assessment, and we have 2 formative assessment coaches in each school. And that's helped us a great deal, moving formative assessment in the district forward. Then, of course, the common assessment that we have done for years that are aligned to the priority standards. And the last thing is the instructional leadership routine. These are the routines that principals use to be successful. So one of the routines that our principals have embedded really deeply this year is conducting walkthroughs. And I've been fortunate to conduct walkthroughs even virtually with our online school. And it's a lot of fun to really watch what great instruction is all about and the alignment to our curriculum. In an easy way, it's like I said, I'm very visual. So for our school improvement, when we got those strategies that we aligned, that we identify as a school, I created an umbrella, because at the very top of the umbrella, everything that we do in this district is culture responsive teaching strategies and the teacher disposition, the actions and the manner in which teachers respond and act accordingly to support students. We must walk our talk. And then in the process, we separate our strategies in two parts: academic strategy and non-academic strategy. And through our journey, you're going to be able to see them very in detail. And at the bottom is the state governor had the blueprint for comprehensive, which is all the social emotional pieces. So that also was there, for the mental health, et cetera. So we had CAP because we were working with MyKIP and they were emphasizing that we look at that and consider that as well. So as we look at this, our work is not in isolation. It cannot only be academic. We got to look at the whole child. And I want to target this because our intense student support network that we have, we focus very heavily on care, support, safety, and membership. Look at the safety and what do you see? We see, we hear, we understand, we value, we respect, and we care. I like to say love our students, because I don't think that if you don't feel love or respect or care, that you can learn from another human being. And so in essence, keep in mind that this is our focus and one of our core as a blueprint district and as a district in general. I'm going to go fast because you have seen this before, but I'm going to put it in there. Our ELA goal, as you can see, we said from the get-go that students' academic achievement for all subgroups, especially Black, EL, special ed, but that means also will in grades K-8 in the areas literacy, reading and writing will increase by 20% as measured by state and local assessment. We've been looking at NWEA, as you could tell, I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago, and that presentation showed you that our students are growing and they're learning and they're on target. Is there room for improvement? There's room improvement everywhere. I don't care what district you're at, but we're working with sustain. We see higher achievement in the area of mathematics in this district, but reading is right behind it. The other piece is I want you to look at the same goal, but more in relationship to looking at our other special groups, and we're going to increase it by 6% as measured. So by June 30th, 2022, we want to see a 6%, and we're on target in meeting this expectation. So the end target, but based on MyKIP, you have to have end target and interim target. Your end target had to end 3 years from now, which is in 2024. So if we're going to close that gap, because we had a large number of children between grades 3 to 8 that were reading below the 3rd grade level, it was 36%. And we want to reduce that by 16% by June 14. We would like to get rid of it all, but we know we have to be, we got to move, okay? And so in essence, when you see that and you see the interim target, you see that the 36% for this year, for us to meet the target by June 30th, as soon as we finish the NWA, and we also look at the MSTEP, et cetera, we'll be able to, and the PSAT, we'll be able to see the movement from 36 to 30%. We might see more significant with the great work that we're doing here. So, but that's the minimal that we want to see. And then I will come back to you and let you know how we're doing, right? So in the process, here are those 5 strategies. These are the same 5 strategies that we're utilizing for mathematics. There also happen to be blueprint things. So the teacher collaborative routine is those teacher action, student action. HMH is our balanced literacy program that we use with the pacing and all of this. Our MTSS is our systems of support to support our young people, the wraparound around all. You just can't look at academic without looking at social emotional. And so those are the things. And our instructional leadership routine. And of course, the umbrella, which is our culture responsive teaching and everything that we do. I wanted to target here very quickly because today Sue shared something with us, but the Charlotte Danielson framework has done a shift. And I want you to see how much we have been aligned throughout our journey. So Danielson's model has been looking at, for example, what we learned after the pandemic and all the learning that we've done about creating environment and how children learn and how they need to be moving forward. And I'm here to tell you that we've been at the front of this work leading forward, and this is a great thing. So for example, in domain 1, they have just moved from demonstrating knowledge in student, that's one of the benchmarks, to knowing and valuing students. Do you see the work that we've been doing on, we see you, we value, and it's leading us in the right direction. One that Alina always talked about is moving from doing to families to doing with families. So the transition there in domain 4 is from communicating with families, which is just an interaction, to engaging families and community. The language has shifted, more about value, more about responding to students' needs versus we said it, we did it, we taught it. And then now is even for teachers, it's not about showing professionalism, it's about acting in service of students. So there's a lot here. And I want to say that because as you see the rest, when you're looking at our culture responsive teaching, this is what we embedded, moving to a restorative lens of supporting students where they're at and how we lead them forward. Okay. So the math are pretty much the same. We had the 20% increase by June 30th. And then when you look here, you'll see that we were going to go, we're moving 20%. And you'll see the interim that we're moving 6 points as well, to move us forward. And then it's the same 5 strategies that we had. And then we had sell my goals. And this, we worked with the schools and the team, and they thought that they want to look at office disciplinary referrals and suspension will be reduced by 50%. We're pretty much on target on this one, pretty much at this point. And so we see the end target there. And then you also see it here for the interim for the end of June. What I want to come back to you is that we don't look at NWA, we look at all the state assessment. We also look at different, protocols and systems that we have and other pieces of data, progress monitoring, et cetera, because we want to make sure we're seeing multiple pieces of data that tells the real story of student. So from social emotional learning to other skills. One of the biggest commitment that we said this, we were going to prepare our staff in these executive function skills. And we were talking about the ISN staff, which are your 31A and culture and climate coach. And I'm here to tell you that everybody's been trained. We continue to do that training, and the systems are being put into the schools. Here are the strategies for et cetera. And again, the biggest focus is on the MTSS and the total ISS, and which is the intense student support network that we have. Okay, and you see the blueprint from the governors, et cetera. What questions might you have at this moment? And if you want me, I can just finish the other part, and then you want to ask questions?
No.
I have a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam President. So thank you for this overview, and I love the holistic approach. My question is about the balanced literacy. So that's typically Fontes and Pinnell, and it involves guessing at words based on context. And the science doesn't support that. Why are we using that system? Like, I thought we were doing structured literacy with the sequential phonics base, so I'm not sure why I'm confused.
Okay, so it's just the phonetic of the language, with the balanced literacy, our HMH uses the term balanced literacy, but it really is not the Fontes and Pinnell. We're very intense, comprehensive phonemic program for the K3 students, or sometimes it's K2, depending on what the students are. But it has the balanced literacy and the phonemic awareness and all the stuff. But we're not using we're using that program with EL students because it's found that we're getting results for them, as well as another form of intervention is like we think about high dosage tutoring. We're using that initiative with certain students with smaller group because it does promote the literacy with them, but they're still part of the HMH. You know, they just get extra as well. Okay. But our program is HMH.
Okay, thank you. I think I would love to see a presentation on that program and how that's working and so forth, because that, anytime I see balanced literacy as a special education, that worries me tremendously.
You know, and we could make a good presentation because it's been very successful with the EL population, and we have seen significant growth with the EL population. And we'll work and we'll come out and make a presentation about where they're at, how we're utilizing. But we're utilizing the systems. Maybe not necessarily mean that we follow all of it. It's the systems that are promoting the literacy, and we use other books, not only just Fontes and Pinel. So,
Thank you. So we can look forward to a presentation
Yes.
about the literacy program. I would love that. Thank you.
One really quick question, Dr. Lopez. Could you share if the interim target 3 related to office referrals and suspensions decreased by 25%? Did we meet that target by last December?
You're talking about the. I gotta get there. Give me a second. So for last year, we did because we didn't have all the amended suspensions. Am I off?
It's because we weren't in school.
Yeah, that's yeah, exactly.
But
That's why.
this was the root cause that the team
Yes.
wrote
Okay.
in helping. However, they're still looking, this was the first CLC they did with the administrators as well as Dr. Lopez and our might excel. However, last year is going to look dramatically down. So this year will be up because we weren't in school for a lot of the year last year.
And that was basically it for last year.
Thank you. Trustee Goodrich.
I just have a quick question for all of these percentage changes. What's the baseline that those are, like what time point is the baseline for all of those percent increases or decreases for the targets?
So the baseline is that we were looking at NWA and we looked at NWA and then we looked at the PSAT or the MSTEP and the PSAT for grade 8. And basically what we triangulated and we're able to look at the data, from the data, then based on NWA, for example, targets, where the students should have been by 3rd grade, we were able to look at grades K to 8 and identify any student who was below that score. And then we were able to target and identify that percentage. And that was the starting point where the bulk of the 36% of students in this district that were not reading at a 3rd grade level. And then from there, then we set goals in decreasing that. Am I off?
Can you, if you go to, for example, the goal with academic achievement, if you go to that end target number 1, you'll see the start at 36% to 16%. So this is where he's saying
Okay,
it
so those
started
are
with
not
the date.
over any particular time point. It's just getting to those overall.
When they
percentages.
triangulated the data, that's what they were at, 36% of students who are identified below grade level. And so that's where they got the 20%. I just wanted to give it a specific example. I know you know it in your head. I wanted to show it on the paper.
And Ms. Goodrich, that was a year ago when we sat down and we were triangulating the data right about this time. And so we're doing the same now, you understand, with the current data. And so from there, we'll inform, do we have to make modification? Where are we at? Okay.
Any other board questions? Thank you, Dr. Lopez.
So some upcoming programs, et cetera. So one of the things is that that Karen is helping us with we have a committee that's actually identifying the FACE conference. And we decided that we were going to join the FACE conference and the back to school bash. And so we will have this on Saturday, August 20th, which is great for recruitment and also for bringing families together. And it'll be from 8 to 3. And the FACE conference will be held at YCS main campus. And so we were thinking that we'll be utilizing the high school. We're utilizing this building, this space, and we're utilizing for recruitment. And then we're utilizing the athletic field and Estabrook for childcare, et cetera. But from 8 to 12, we will have the FACE conference with the focus on care, safety, academics, and partnership. As you know, our parents created that and they wanted that training around those areas. And so we are going to stay the course with that because we are not doing 204, we're doing with. Then the back to school bash will start from 12 to 3. And as you know, that's the time when we distribute backpacks, et cetera, with the kids. Turns out to be such a great day. And I thought, what a wonderful opportunity. But then the other piece is parents must complete a form and they could come in. If they didn't fill it up at that day, they could come in here and fill it up here and go right to the event. And then we will also follow by having these mini conferences throughout the 22-23 school years in different buildings. So that way the FACE conference becomes doing with family throughout the year, not just one. This will be the big event. And then after that, it's mini events throughout the year.
And they just wanted to remind everyone that in 2020, when the surveys went out, when parents gave the feedback, they said they wanted the 4 areas of care, safety, academic, and partnership. So that theme came from the parents in 2020. Also the name, Family and Community Empowerment Conference, FACE. And so that reminder is on the bottom because a lot of people, not only the parents, but the community service groups, that each group had one area, care, safety, academics, and partnerships, and they partnered with the district to create the workshops that will take place at the conference. So there is more to come regarding the FACE conference.
You know, it was the beauty is that even though the pandemic didn't allow us to have this, the partnership continued. So the partnership took a life all by itself and it turned into this. So last year, it was just beautiful to watch the same partner become part of the boots on the ground with us. And we had opportunity last year to go door to door. And what we did when we were going door to door was the whole perspective that we got opportunity to talk to our families. And the partners were with us and they were sharing resources and the agencies. And it was just very, very powerful. So for our 2022 school YCS boot on the ground summer campaign will start in the month of June and it'll go all the way to the end of July. And then everything else kicks up in this district in August. So there's a lot of events, et cetera. So we're good in that. And so this is an opportunity to canvass our community side by side with our partners as we share resources, services beneficial to students and their families. And it's a great way because our staff come and everyone comes together and board members. And I mean, many of you were out there doing this, so you know what this is about. And so YCS will market and advertise through flyers and media. We will again hold events in park, canvas our neighborhood. You know, we were just even talking today about the new food truck because we put the logo and everything else, and it's like just a marketing tool all over the place. So I just think it's a great opportunity for us to show wonderful things that our kids are doing and families and staff, and it's a great thing. What questions might you have on this? Good. So the next one is the D3C3 pathways. And this is a partnership with Washtenaw Community College in which we are literally in the beginning of it. As you can see, the timeline is a collective tentative meetings. You see the meetings on the right-hand side. We're in discussion with a myriad of programs that allow high school students to earn college credit, address the barriers to participation, explore creative ways to work with K-12 schools and partners, align math courses between high school and seniors, and also the opportunity of opening our doors to community college so that maybe a lot of classes are taught in our facility. This is a new partnership that is focusing on 3 areas. The monthly milestones will be local impact of these 3C3 program or pathway across the regions, because there's these regional impacts around and the state impact. Each D3C3 college members must be able to address the challenges, propose solutions, and be visionary for change. This is just an update, but it's a great partner. The partners that are there are serious, and I don't know, Dr. Secretary Ross, you want to talk about that?
Nope, we've shared.
What questions might you have? Well, you'll see more about this because I think this is going to be a game changer for us. And the last thing is the AASA Power Partnership. And so we have, AASA with the MOP Foundation has begun a new project focused on the power of partnerships to highlight school district, after school and summer partnerships to promote student well-being, recovery, and acceleration. AASA will bring 8 districts with their community partners together in a community of practice. 1 district from each of the 8 states that they represent. Ypsilanti Community School has been identified as the AASA and the Michigan After School Network as the 2022 district representative of Michigan. This is a big deal because we are now being recognized as having a state-of-the-art after-school summer program here, and we are going to represent the state of Michigan in a region with other states. The 2022 in-person meeting will be held in Chicago, beginning the afternoon on April 7th and ending at lunchtime on April 8th. And I know that Dr. Secretary Ross, myself, and Mr. Tucker and another partner is going to join us there. And so we're looking forward to this partnership and opportunity. What questions might you have? Did I leave anything else?
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment. Thank you, Dr. Lopez. This is outstanding. I really appreciate how we are picking back up where we left off pre-pandemic and boots on the ground, and then kind of segueing into the FACE conference, which we were all so disappointed that we could not have because of the pandemic. These are some wonderful initiatives, so we look forward to learning more. Board members, do you have any questions for Dr. Lopez? Thank you so much. Dr. Zachary Ross, would you like to introduce Ms. Nyack?
Thank you. Board, again, a part of the MASB field book. It really talks about ensuring that you're looking at the budget over time. And we also know that by the end of the year, if there are amendments that are necessary, that you've taken those in consideration. We know that the major look and deep dive on it is with the auditors as they come in the fall and works with our board treasurer and does the report in November. So this will be the first consideration for a budget amendment by Priya Nayak.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Superintendent Zachary Ross. Thank you for giving me the opportunity today to present the budget amendment in front of you. Today, on our agenda, we'll go over the summary of changes, overview of how those changes reflect on our revenue as well as expenses. We'll go over what next steps we should take and any questions or comments you might have. So here are some of our major contributors to our budget amendment. Due to pandemic or post-pandemic, the approval of the grants the process of approving the grants was delayed. So normally the grants that we get approval by June, this year we got it by February. So the budget amendment that I normally present in front of you in December has shifted to month of March. Well, here is what we know now. We do know that we have our final allocations for all our title grants as well as the approval for it. We also have a finalized carryover amount for those title grants. We are still working as of the estimated allocations of 31A and hoping that those allocations will get confirmed by end of May. We have the carryover allocations for CARES Act, which was one of the first ESSER. We have carryover allocation for the equity as well as the gear. We are still working with the estimated allocation for our SR2 as well as SR3. In this budget amendment, we still have the 2/3 of the application approved. 1/3 was released, and we are working on submitting that 1/3 application and hoping that by the time we submit the final amendment, should have that final approval for the entire grant. We also have the summer school. Last summer, we had the 2 grants that were approved. We had the summer school and the innovative programming. Also, we had the teacher and the support staff stipends grant. And one of our major is the LEAP as well as the SEEK grant. I would like to take a moment and remind these are all federal grants and these are reimbursable only grants. None of this money we get upfront. We have expenses. Based on the expenses, either monthly or quarterly, we draw down the amounts. So when we reflect, when you will see in the next couple of slides, these are all budgets of what we are expecting to get. If we don't finish all of the money, as you know, they are not fiscal year grants. They go more than our fiscal year. Some of the grants are from July 1 to June, and which we are on target in finishing up. But the other ones who go beyond the fiscal year will reflect in the multiple years budget. So here is how the revenue amendment looks for us. Last year, when we finalized our audit, our auditors had given us a recommendation how they would like to see the revenue align on each line item. We have 5 line items and they wanted in only 4 line items. So as you can see on the last one, which is fund modification, you will notice in the budget amendment, there is no longer a amount reflecting in that. The fund modification is part of the incoming transfers and other transactions going forward. That's how the auditors wanted us to go. And there are some other changes that would go from between the state and the federal revenue and the state and the local revenue. So the budget amendment reflects all those changes. We kept those suggestions in the forefront when we came up with the budget amendment for the revenue. I would also like to emphasize the word budget in here. As you can see, it's a major change from $62 million budget to a $93 million budget. And we still don't have all our approved grants. But most of the grants that you see in the federal revenue, that's where the major changes is. Those grants are valid until September of 2024. So not necessarily the entire $93 million will be expensed in the fiscal year 21-22. We have plans for those funds all the way until September of 2024. So majority of these grants will be part of our budget amendments as well as carryover budgets for the next fiscal years. And these revenues will be on our budget until we have spent every dollar of it. We do not anticipate giving even a penny back. Even though the plans are for multiple years, the year that you receive the approval, we do have to incorporate the entire revenue that was approved for the whole grant. So even though our entire SR2 is approved and we are planning to use it over the next 2 years, it will be part of this year's as well as then the next few years. Next, we have the budgeted expenses that align with the revenue. Same process that goes for the revenue will apply to the expense as well. You will see that there is $93 million worth of expenses, but again, same as revenue, these plans have been there for the next 2 years. For example, I would like to take a look at the basic programs and instructions. There is summer school planned for it. There are 2 years worth of summer school that's planned. So not necessarily the entire amount will be spent in the 21-22 school year. There will be some that will spend in 22-23 as well as 23-24. All of that, the actuals will reflect when we do our audit. One of the other big changes you will see is in the debt service. You will see that from the 2.3 million that we annually have, it has gone up to just little over a $5 million. We are planning to pay down our Schneider Electric debt lease that we have early. So by paying that debt early, we are saving literally over $1 million in interest. So not only we have the annual savings of utilizing the Schneider Electric program, now we have a savings of $1 million in the interest. So the district is benefited from the both aspects of it. Next. So next, what I would like you to do is, when it is presented in front of you under the action items, I would like you to approve this amendment. This will allow us to continue working for the final amendment, and this will allow the business office to continue refining the budget estimates. And I use the word budget estimates because we continuously keep getting the approvals of the grants that changes the budget. Budget is a living document, so it keeps changing our budget. So business office works throughout the year to keep refining those budget estimates. It will allow us to refine the staffing cost estimates for the most recent and upcoming hires. We are working on right now to determine, we are reevaluating all our grants to see what we are estimating to be used by June 30, 2022, which will allow us to estimate the carryovers for the next budget. And then that final budget amendment will be presented to you in the month of June. At the same time, simultaneously, we'll work on proposing the initial budget for the fiscal year 22-23. What questions might you have?
Trustee Gaisley.
Thanks. I was wondering, could you go back 2 slides, please, Ms. Nyack?
Devon?
I'm wondering if you could comment on the line central services. It seems to have a pretty significant upcharge, and I'm wondering if the masks and COVID equipment was through there, or what other things are causing that increase.
So again, the central services was part of the ESSER grant. There are certain expenses that have been planned for the next 3 years. Okay. So that's why you'll see the $6.5 million does not mean that we are spending that money in this year. So this will be money that will be used for next 2 years.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? Yes, Trustee Townsend.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Priyak, for doing this. I do want to just personally say that I'm very appreciative that you stay on top of the money, and I appreciate you saying we're not giving any of it back. But in regards to the debt service, you said, if I'm correct, that the goal is to pay some debt off early so we can save additional money, right?
Yes.
So we already know from what discussion that each year we pay out this $2 million, which equates to about 233 students that we could be servicing. So with that being said, along with this work to try to increase the payment early, I'm assuming that you want the board to continue to work to try to get additional support from the state of Michigan and our leaders to assist with trying to reduce this debt, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other board questions? Thank you, Ms. Nyack.
Thank you.
Next, that takes us to our first public comment portion for this evening. Ms. Haynes, are there any public comment cards that have come in? Okay, while you are gathering the cards, I will go ahead and read the public comment protocol. Pursuant to Board of Education Policy 0167.3, the board recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express their views. Please limit statements to 3 minutes in duration. Participants shall direct all comments to the board and not to staff or other participants. No person may address or question board members individually. Remarks shall be made in a respectful and professional manner. First, we have Rebecca Skirston. Did I pronounce that correctly? If I didn't, you can correct me at the mic. And the topic is on the mask policy.
It's Shurston.
Shurston?
Uh-huh.
Thank you, and I apologize.
Good evening. As a parent in the district, I am here tonight to ask that YCS make masks optional for all students and staff. Last Friday, March 10th, the Washtenaw County Health Department announced that the county COVID-19 community level is low. And this is a quote from their website, "At this level, masking in indoor public locations is no longer broadly recommended," according to the CDC. The CDC, as well as the Michigan Department of Health, have both removed their recommendations for universal masking in schools. In addition, the Washtenaw County Health Department school mask mandate expired last month. YCS remains one of only 2 districts in the entire county that has yet to make masks optional. I know the district conducted a survey and is looking to make a decision following spring break, but I ask that this change take place immediately. Our children have done enough. They have done more than they should have ever been asked of them. 2 years of their childhood has been disrupted. I ask you please to give them back the sense of normalcy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Levada Weathers.
I was at the board meeting the last time, and I was thinking about the 2 public comments that were brought up, and one of them was the masking. I'd like to suggest on behalf of students that are not well, particularly special needs students, and any staff, any other students that may have some health conflicts, that you stick with your schedule. And if you change the mask mandate, do it as you have already planned and not any earlier. Yeah, it says they're low. The cases are low. It doesn't say we don't have any. They're just low. I also want to make the comment again that please find the pictures from Willow Run and Ipsy and see that you get them posted somewhere. And thank you very much. Oh, and thanks because I could see the screen.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Robin McCoy.
Hello, so good evening, everyone. My name is Attorney Robin McCoy. So I've been practicing for 20 years in this area. I was born and raised in this area, and I'm actually running for state rep in the 32nd district. I attended ECDC and Cheney Elementary School. I also went to Catholic school in this area. And I was inspired to become a lawyer at 14 to help people in need. I was congressional page at 16, and so I went to DC and I was able to have firsthand exposure to the legislative process. In the course of my work as an attorney, I've been an educational advocate, so I've been partnering with the schools to make sure that kids get all the supports that they need for special ed, get testing. I actually have a client right now that was shot and trying to make sure that he gets all the support because I've worked with children. I've worked as a lawyer guardian ad litem. So I've worked 12 and a half years with Michigan Children's Law Center, working with children that were exposed to trauma to make sure that they get all the supports they need. So special ed, general ed. And so I have literature here, and I applaud you for all that you do. And I just want to make sure I had parents that helped nurture me and support me to have educational excellence, going to University of Chicago, University of Michigan Law School. And I just think it's important that we do that for our kids. In the course of my college, I was able to connect with Michelle Obama. She helped me with my law school application, and I continue to do that. I'm an educator as well. I teach at EMU. My assistant, Dr. Michaela Evans, is also a professor at EMU. And I just think it's important that we educate our kids. And, I know with COVID, there are some kids that were able to be successful with doing things online. Some kids not so much. Like I started teaching in person and then it went virtual. And so I just know that we've got a lot to do as far as helping our kids to catch up. And I think it's important that the village come to the aid of the kids and do all that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the members of the public for your comments to the Board of Education this evening. Next, that takes us to our consent agenda. At this time, is there a motion?
Madam President, Vice President Lee, move that the Board of Education approve the February 28, 2022 regular board meeting minutes and 2 personnel matters as per the presented list dated 3/7/22, new hires and resignations.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Vice President Lee. Is there support for this motion?
Support. Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry. Support trustee Goodrich.
Thank you. Supported by Trustee Goodrich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to our first discussion item for this evening, and that's the first reading of our Neola policies. This discussion will be led by Trustee Schindler, who serves as the chair on our policy committee.
Thank you, Madam President. So the policy committee met, as I talked about at the last meeting, to just go through some new and updated policies. And so for anyone that wasn't at the last meeting, including members of the public, most of the policies that we pass are just things we have to pass to stay on top of federal and state regulations. And Neola is the service that we employ to make sure that we're staying on top of that. So much of this is kind of rubber stamp stuff. In this group of policies, though, there's a couple changes that we made to the suggested policies to keep the privacy data for our students and our faculty and staff and administrators more private than was originally suggested by Neola, which I think is the least we can do. And then also there is a policy 0167 about public participation at board meetings. Really directly pertains to us, obviously, and it just outlines some updated guidelines about how public participation might go, including that individuals can't cede their time to other individuals. It just kind of prevents certain types of kind of like just, ongoing comments that we've seen happening in other districts around the country and around the even the county. It still allows for plenty of public participation, but it just doesn't allow for one person to go on for 20 minutes because somebody keeps ceding time to that person. So, you can take a look at that. The new language on all the policies is in green, and the removed language or updated language has been crossed out, and that's true for all of them. The other policy pertaining to board meetings is that, which is what we've been doing anyway. If you want to give a public comment, you need to be here in person to do that. Certainly members of the public are free to email the board at any time. So, your voice can be heard. So that's the big ones. I don't know how much detail you want me to go through them in, but you can just, take a look, open them each up and just kind of see. In the student records, we just altered, again, the information access. And so that was in 8330. In 8320, same thing. I already talked about 0167 and 3120. Honestly, I don't remember off the top of my head. I have to open that one up. Oh, that just opens up a little bit of space in terms of how the hiring process can go. And follows, I believe, just the general trend in the state about being more inclusive in the hiring process for teachers. And being more, recognizing more of people who have experience in fields as they gain certification. 6114 is cost principles, spending federal funds, and that just limits what's allowed to be, what those funds are allowed to be spent on. And that's, I believe, the kind of thing we just sort of have to pass. We don't really have to. 7450 is the property inventory, and actually, oh, it's just not in color. It just sets the federal threshold for a supply designation in there. Again, we don't, that's just something we've got to do. Yeah, and then 8310, 8320, and 8330 are all related, and they're about just limiting access to personal records from the public, which is very reasonable. So I'm
Thank
happy
you.
to answer any questions or,
Yes.
or turn it back over to Dr. Huggins or Dr.
No, that is wonderful.
yes.
Thank you, Trustee Schindler. And as always, thank you for your leadership. We, as the board, we've had an opportunity to review these policies, and now this is our first read. And just to point you to kind of the process as it is outlined, we'll have a second reading of these policies at our next board meeting scheduled for April 11th. And then there will be an adoption of these policies. As Trustee Schindler stated, a lot of these policies are about compliance. Our committee meets and we go through them, and it's a pretty extensive process. So I just appreciate the board members who serve on all our committees, and especially the policy committee, because it can be very tedious work, but it is very necessary work and it's important work. So thank you again, Trustee Schindler, for your leadership. Board members, do you have any questions?
Yes, please.
Yes, Vice President Lee.
So I'm looking at policy 3120, employment of professional staff. It doesn't have a lot of stuff in green, but it has a lot in red and cross out. So that means that will be deleted.
Those are strikeouts.
Okay.
Yes.
And for clarification, you see they changed otherwise permitted by law, because so the legal is all on the front. That has changed a little bit. And so they made it more broader to, as Chair Schindler said, to make sure it's more inclusive.
You'll see a lot of red, and then you'll see little points in the policy in green. So like Dr. Zachary Ross just pointed out, otherwise permitted by laws on page 2, but you can hardly see it because it's a sea of red on the paper.
Oh, yes. Okay, I see it now.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Does that answer your question, Vice President Lee?
Yes, thank you.
All right, perfect. Any other board questions? Okay, seeing none, that takes us to our next agenda item. And again, that was our first read. We will have our second read on April 11th, and then we will adopt our policies as presented. Next, that takes us to our discussion on the COVID-19 mass survey. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Zachary Ross.
Thank you, Madam President. I know in the packet I gave just one piece, but I wanted to make sure we were visual because, we want to honor the fact that families, students, and staff took time to complete the survey. I always talk about that African proverb, to go fast, you can go alone, but if you want to go long, we got to go together. And so I really appreciate our families doing that. So on March 5th, the survey was sent to students, staff, students in the secondary grades, as a matter of fact, because we wanted to make sure they're old enough to understand the words there, parents and the community. We asked everyone to respond by March 10th at 5 o'clock. At that point, we had 565 respondents to our staff and student survey, with 124 of them specifically for responses from students. And we had 316 respondents from the parents and community. We asked people to complete, put their emails just to make sure we knew they were kind of our students or our staff. They had a YCS email, but the parents could put in, or community members, in their own personal emails. And so as a result, we asked them about these statements, and knowing that the statements will be true for our buildings and it would include transportation, because we know there was a differentiation before about masking on the buses or masking in the school buildings and the buildings that we have. So the first question was, YCS should begin voluntary masking on Monday, April 4th, 2022, when we return from spring break. 31%, and I'll break this down later, but 31% of the respondents said yes, let's make it optional. They wanted it voluntary. Number two, YCS should continue to require masking and reconsider during the summer if the district require masking for the 22-23 school year based on data. We asked that specifically because, as we talked about last week, our summer schools, the people who want to apply for summer school was like, are we gonna have to wait? Do we understand? Are you gonna ask us another survey before that? And so we were like, okay, we're gonna just ask now so that we kind of understand their thoughts. We had a lot of staff ask questions before the survey was sent out. 35.4% of the respondents said yes, they wanted to require masking, but before going into summer school to reconsider if masking would be required during the summer school. And then number three, YCS should consider to require masking in all buildings and transportation for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, including summer. And 32.9% of our respondents said that that was their choice. So you might say, well, what does that mean for us? So if you look on the next slide here, when we looked, this is directly from the survey results. We saw that then 31.2% said to start voluntary masking right after spring break. The second one, number two, we just have it in yellow, 1, 2, 3, 2, was we should continue to require masking and reconsider during the summer if the district would require masking for the 22-23 school year based on data. That one with the 35%. And then 32.9% said we should continue to require masking in all buildings and transportation for the remainder and include summer. So if you look at the data of people who wanted us to remain with masks, if you added up the 35.4 and the 32.9, that's 68.3% of the respondents, and this was the parent respondents, said that we should continue. So we then went to, if we go to the next slide, we broke that down to what did the staff and students say. So we asked them again those same questions. YCS should begin voluntary masking on Monday, April 4th, 2022, when we return from spring break. 43% of them said yes, let's remove them at spring break. Number two, YCS should continue to require masking and reconsider during the summer if the district will require masking for the 22-23 school year based on data. 32% said to continue, but before go to summer school, let's reconsider. And then the last one was YCS should continue to require masking in all buildings and transportation for the remainder of the 21-22 school year, including summer, 21.6%. So in that order for our students. So when you look at their statements together on the pie chart, Number one, the one that talked about, should we remove the mask immediately? 43%. But when you add together the ones that said to continue to require masking during the summer and look at it for the 22-23 school year, that was 32.8%. And then YCS should continue wearing masking in all buildings and transportation just for the remainder and all through the summer, 21.6%. When you had the 32.8 and 21.6, 54.4% of our students and staff responded to remain in masking. So what does all that mean, right? What does all that mean? It means overall, the recommendation is that Ypsilanti Community Schools will continue to require masks throughout the district, including transportation, until the end of the school year, and then reevaluate it for the summer. And so I wanted to also share that we had a lot of comments. We read through the comments. Specifically, I know I emailed the response because I didn't want to have everyone's emails out in the public, but with the board so that you could see the comments. We don't want it to look like just administrators could see the comments. This entire group could see the comments. And we heard comments from right away. Why aren't we removing the mask mandate right away? Why are we waiting? Two, I'm really concerned about myself, my children. Several of the families shared their own personal stories about what their own circumstances were. And so we wanted to make sure to state that today, because I don't want people to say, well, you asked for comments and you didn't go through them, you didn't read them, you're just putting out the data. I think reading what students said, what staff said, what family said, it was very, very important and informative to even have the discussion today. And so it's not, I know I have what questions might you have, but it's more of this is supposed to be a discussion topic. Yet I want to make sure that you had all the information and that we showed the data there, because we want people to see the results, because we don't want to ever do surveys just because. We don't want to ever do surveys and not give that feedback. And so I know typically it's just in an email when we talk about the response, but I thought this topic was important enough to make sure that we took the time to look at it together.
Thank you, Dr. Zachary Ross. Any comments from the board? Yes, Trustee Goodrich.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zachary Ross, for summarizing the results of the survey and for making that survey available to our community. I really appreciate having the chance to read through the comments and see some of those stories and the different perspectives that our families and staff are bringing to this. One thing that struck me was that even among the 31.6% of respondents who advocated for going to voluntary masking after break, many in there said, I would be comfortable now, but I want to hear what other people have to say. I'm willing to follow the district's lead. I feel okay, but I recognize that doesn't mean everyone's okay. And I know that we know the data and the recommendations for Washtenaw County as a whole. We also know that in many respects, we serve a more vulnerable population. So I respect the thought and the care that went into this decision, and I'm really glad that we have the voice of our community to help guide us.
Madam President, could I follow up with Trustee
Absolutely.
Goodrich? Trustee Goodrich, I thank you for that because you also gave me a reminder. Many of the comments talked about masking, and we're talking about in the buildings and transportation. And I know even with the original policy, because talking about policy, there was a masking policy, but it was really clear about inside the buildings. And so one of the things that we wanted to clarify as district administration, that we were talking about inside of a building. We know outside there was a whole bunch of different pieces and people shared that with us, and that was part of why it's saying in the buildings. And so we will make sure to have that clarification, because I wanted to share that is inside of the buildings if they were outside and apart. And so we need to clarify that. The health department has talked about that too. Being in open spaces is different. And so I wanted to, part of the survey did ask specifically about inside the building and transportation. And we heard those results and have already contacted the health department to make sure that we're sharing kind of like, that was a huge difference between inside the building and inside of a bus versus being outside. So that feedback was so helpful.
Any other board comments? Yes. Trustee
Thank you,
Schindler.
Madam President. So I think this is a good recommendation based on the community feedback. And I know that, I mean, even U of M has decided to go with masks in classrooms until the end of the semester. I mean, you know, there's a lot of caution out there, which I think is rightfully so. My question is, when we do go to mask optional, whenever that is, what kinds of, like, do we have air filters in all the classrooms? What do our HVAC units look like? What other mitigation strategies do we have to protect people when we do go to mask optional?
Thank you for that question. We were very fortunate that the taxpayers passed our sinking fund right before this happened. So I know it looks like we're just can see into the future, and that we were just so on top of it. It was because that was what the board prioritized first. In terms of upgrading the HVAC systems, it was really needed. So not only was it the right timing because they were upgraded, we also, at the same time, when the governor, if you can go way back to our plans that we had to review monthly, at that time, our HVAC system personnel had just been working over the summer. So they gave recommendation because there was a lot going on with asking about the windows being open and if the doors should be open and what to do for the returns. So we got them to give our operations department recommendations. So all of our HVAC systems have been updated. They have been open to the number that was recommended by the experts, not just our internal folks. And we do know there was a question about individual classroom filters, like there's these fans or machines. And so we had an opportunity in this county, which I need to say thank you, Toyota did a walkthrough with operations folks and gave a huge presentation on it. So they didn't recommend individually doing the classrooms. And I don't know all the technical pieces, but literally Aaron Rose went to that presentation, has been consulting with them. And so that was very helpful, but it was truly because we were at the right time that happened because of the sinking fund. And I'm just grateful that we had that, because we would have been certainly the funds that we had to spend, as you just heard about, the many districts had to spend unanticipated funds on doing that. The other mitigation strategies, if you can remember, and that's part of what we've had to spend on some of the services, is we have the 360 machines. So the machines, when our custodians go through, and it's almost like a fog, so it goes on top, underneath, it's to be able to kill germs. It's not just wiped off something. And so those machines were purchased. We can remember the first CARES Act to continue to be used throughout. Along with, again, thank you for the ESSER funds, like for the filtration systems for the water. We did not have those water filtration systems in each of the buildings. So there's been several pieces along the way where funds were spent with that CARES Act at first, and now some of the ESSER's funds to continue mitigation strategies.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
long answer.
Trustee Gaisley.
Thank you. I just want to express my appreciation for the fact that we did this survey and have been engaging the community and seeing what they are curious about and what their suggestions are.
And I was also very happy to see the high rate of participation in this survey. It makes me feel confident that we got a good sense of what our community feels. And so with that, I do feel comfortable supporting the district's recommendation. But through the comments, I did get a couple of questions. One of them, certainly the outdoor, it seemed like, I know that we passed a policy, students are not required to wear masks when they're on the playground. But it sounded like maybe that either hadn't gotten back to parents or that maybe some schools were implementing that policy differently. The second mitigation strategy that I think would be really valuable to revisit if we haven't already, there was an educator who commented about having students work in groups. And I think the even more than masks, a bigger disruption to our students' education has been that they've had to sit 6 feet apart, they've had to stay at their own desk, and they haven't been able to physically get together for collaborative work. And so if there's one mitigation that I would suggest that we revisit right away, that would be it, to actually allow students to move around the classroom and to work collaboratively, have stations in kindergartens, all of those things that we know are really valuable. And I would encourage us to do those things before we do a mask mandate. If we can keep masks on and do those things, that would make me feel great.
Can I pause you there, because that was, again, I know I said thank you, but I don't know if our parents and our teachers understand enough how that feedback was so helpful, because you're right, we passed the policy and we changed where you don't have to have the mask outdoors. And I was like, I literally wrote that. I'm like, why? It's a communication gap somewhere. So I said, oh my, if no one had said anything, I wouldn't know. The second piece is that we're doing walkthroughs in many classrooms. Teachers, their students are working together. They're not in the rows anymore. And so there's, again, a gap, because you see them all together in certain places and then others not, that inconsistency. So I hear you as well. I just want to acknowledge loud and clear that we have to make sure that what we're doing, what's acceptable, what's not, is clear across the district, because certainly we want our students to be able to work in groups.
Thank you. I just have one more comment, if that's okay. There were a couple comments coming through about, could we have a concrete metric of when we would re-implement a masking policy? And I know, particularly speaking as a parent of a child who's too young to be vaccinated and who is in a very high-risk classroom, it's, I would be comfortable now, but if cases start creeping back up again, I would want to have the confidence that we would, re-implement those policies and not have folks be surprised if those policies have to be re-implemented. I know our district has been really good about that, but if we could just be clear about, what would trigger the re-implementation of the policy if it becomes necessary down the road. So if we are considering June 30th as our reconsideration deadline, perhaps we could make that answer part of the recommendation.
Thank you. I also wanted to add another piece that came out that you helped me to remember, was the fact that some people felt like their child, if we did not do it, what were we going to do in terms of the teaching and learning to make sure that students, no matter if they wore a mask or not, will be feeling welcome. And so that teaching and learning is our responsibility, to make sure. We know some students wear glasses and some students don't. Some students are in wheelchairs and some students aren't. So we'll have to ensure that throughout our culture, when we talk about Stronger Together, when we talk about welcoming anyone, we have to make it our responsibility to have that conversation with our students in the classroom. And so I heard that as well, listening to those comments. So that's something else, is, okay, if this is happening, this is how we prepare, in terms that educational piece is not lost.
Yes, Trustee Townsend.
So again, thank you for sharing the information. It was very informative, and I do appreciate the fact that YCS is not following the grain of what everybody else is doing, and that we are specifically paying attention to our community. There was a comment on there from a parent that, again, I think it's a communication thing about in regards to testing and where you know, that each building should have a testing or things like that. And I want to make sure that each building is communicating that the testing, I believe, that goes on here at central office. And so we just want to make sure that they know that there is no barrier for them to get free testing and that it's always done here at the district building and that every building is communicating that information.
So thank you for that. Yes, because I read a couple of those. One, we will continue. We have the HRAs, which are the Health Resource Advocates. So they are, and they both, we have 2.5, but they're usually, you see 2 on one day. They both, all 3 of them are nurses. We have them through funding from the state of Michigan. And so it's not, you won't see that in our district budget because we work together with the county to apply for that funding. And so they are here till June though. So we'll have to, I'm hoping that the funding continues. So not only is are the tests free and it's really students and families for YCS. So not only are the tests no charge, that grant also covers them being here every day. So we don't know about that follow-up. However, until June, we have them Monday through Friday and we test all day. Secondly, someone did mention about the vaccination site. We were a vaccination site. We always make ourselves available if the county wants another site. That one, again, we open ourselves up. We're not a site. We don't have funds or nurses to do that. We do encourage, if parents feel like their children want to get vaccinated, we will make that available. But again, we just do it on the dates that if the health department asks for a site on this side, we open ourselves up. We've told them anytime we will make ourselves available, and that's up to parents.
Any other board comments or questions? I'll just make one last comment. Thank you, Dr. Zachary Ross, for presenting this data in such a transparent way. A big thank you to our students, our staff, our parents, our community members. And I just really appreciate the humanity that comes through and the care that we have for everyone who lives in this community, and really paying attention to who we are. You know, as I think about COVID and the disruptions of COVID, I also, but we'll be remiss if I didn't mention how deep the inequities are as it relates to people of color who have contracted COVID. And so while I know there is a need for everyone to be out of the mask, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we also, I think, have to be mindful of and pay attention to the data as it relates to people of color who have been hit hard by the pandemic. Health inequities in our county are at an all-time high. They have been for years, and I think the pandemic just really exacerbated that, and throughout our country. So I just wanted to just mention that there are disparities in our healthcare system, and the hardest hit communities are often those communities of color and those communities who are facing challenges. So I just appreciate the thought and the care that went into collecting this data. I appreciate everyone who responded to the survey, and I just appreciate living in a community where people care about the needs of others. So thank you, Dr. Zachary Ross. Next, that takes us to action item number 10 under Human Resources. And we have a potential new hire approval for employment. And at this time, I would like to ask, is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education approves the district's employment request.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Trustee Gainsley. Is there support for this motion?
I support Trustee Goodrich.
Supported by Trustee Goodrich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to action item number 11 under Student Affairs. And there is an acceptance of a field trip request from Ypsilanti Community High School, RCTC Culinary Arts. And before we make this motion, well, we can make the motion and then we can invite anyone to speak about this field trip. So I read the update, so I don't want to, I'll save my comment till after. I'm just really pleased that this is coming forward. At this time, is there a motion?
Madam President, Trustee Townsend, I move that the Board of Education approve the overnight field trip of the Ypsilanti Community Schools culinary program to Grand Rapids in March 2022 for the Skills USA State Leadership and Skills Conference.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Townsend. Is there support for this motion?
Madam President, trustee Fields, I support.
Supported by trustee Fields. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. I just wanted to say a huge congratulations to our culinary arts program. I read the update and I'm so pleased. So I'll let Dr. Zachary Ross, I'll let you say a few words, and I know you want to introduce a guest.
Thank you. Yes, we are just so proud of our students and our staff who have been working around. I know Mr. Burnett is going to take you. You can start, coming up to the mic. As Bill Burnett has been leading our whole, even as a supposedly retiree who's here tonight, leading all of our CTE programs. He has just been right there in support, and not only about this, but we'll talk about that next one. But Mr. Burnett, can you share?
Crazy good things happening over in culinary and all of our CTE programs. The kids, I don't know if you saw the announcement that they won an opportunity to go to NASA.
Yes.
Down in Houston. That's another field trip that will be coming across your desk. I would have hoped, and I'm not sure that they did this, that collision repair is going to be included on that. I don't know if it's on there or not. They'll be going to that same conference. If not, I'll get after them and make sure you got it done. I've done this for the last 25 years or so in the transition. We might be lacking a little bit. We'll get it taken care of. But the chef has just been working day and night with these students. We have outstanding students across the board in all three of our programs right now, our collision, air, auto, and culinary arts. And it's starting to really pay off for us. We appreciate the support of the district and keeping these programs going. It's been tough through COVID, and you ever want to hear a good story, listen to what Chef did during COVID with these kids. But I just appreciate your support in all this, and we'll be back with another trip for them to go to Houston. We're raising funds for that right now. I had put it on my Facebook, had a former with a priority sub that worked for RCTC a number of years ago. He messaged me back right away. I'll send you $500. Today during this meeting, he messaged me again. Oh, my friend is going to send $250. And then good old Bob Oliver, everybody knows Bob, he's giving us $500. So it's coming together. We're getting the funds raised for this. I think we have probably substantial funds already in our CTE activities program, thanks to donations from Dusty's and others. But so we're going to make it happen. It's great. I appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We appreciate your commitment, your ongoing dedication to our students, and this is just outstanding, and we look forward to hearing more. Next, that takes us to action item number 12 under Business and Finance, the approval of the Kramer Technology contract. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, Trustee Townsend, I move that the Board of Education accept as presented the Kramer Technologies bid for the CTE automotive lift in the amount of $35,211.12.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Townsend. Is there support for this motion?
Madam President, trustee Fields, I support.
Supported by trustee Fields. Any discussion on this item? Absolutely, Mr. But please.
We got a 61C grant from the state of Michigan. Our share here at Ypsilanti is $142 or $146,143. 40, not 140, 42,000, 46,000. I'm sorry. Actually, I've written it down.
42,143.
Yeah, 42,143. Thank you. And we met together as a group and decided that the bulk of that needs to go to replacing our wheel alignment lift that we from the auto mechanics program. It's rather dated and bordering on becoming unsafe. That caused some sacrifice from the other programs that didn't get as big a slice of the pie, but they're going to get a little bit this time, and hopefully we'll continue on and get some more. But it's a great safety item, and it's a great upgrade for our mechanics program. This, by the way, is Mr. Steve Johansson. He's our auto mechanics instructor. He was He started last year during the heat of COVID, and he's still here. He's doing a fantastic job with these students. They're fixing all kinds of cars, doing a great job, so.
Thank you. Any board comments, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to the acceptance of the National SAM's Innovative Project quote. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, Vice President Lee, move that the Board of Education accept as presented the National SAM's Innovation Project quoted in the amount of $90,900.
Thank you. A motion has been made by Vice President Lee. Is there support for this motion?
Madam President, trustee Townsend, support.
Supported by trustee Townsend. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to the acceptance of the 2022 through 2027 WISD Fiber Consortium Agreement. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, trustee Townsend, I move that the Board of Education approve the Washtenaw County Schools Fiber Consortium Agreement as presented.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Townsend. Is there support for this motion?
Support Vice President Lee.
Supported by Vice President Lee. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to the approval and adoption of the amended budget. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, trustee Fields, move that the Board of Education approve and adopt the amended budget as presented.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Fields. Is there support for this motion?
Support trustee Gainsley.
Supported by trustee Gainsley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to the acceptance of the district audio upgrade project. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, trustee Schindler, I move that the Board of Education accept as presented the audio enhancement quote for Epic in the amount of $1,538,284.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Schindler. Is there support for this motion?
Support Vice President Lee.
Supported by Vice President Lee. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to a donation of books for kids and Ms. Jordan Else donation for Erickson Elementary School. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, I move that the Board of Education accept a donation from Books for Kids and Ms. Jordan Else of new diverse books, bookmarks, notebooks, and pencils for each student at Erickson Elementary School in the amount totaling $1,000.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Goodrich. Is there support for this motion?
Trustee Schindler, support.
Supported by trustee Schindler. Is all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to action item under number 13, the adoption of the resolution in support of the IDEA Full Funding Act. Is there a motion at this time?
Madam President, trustee Schindler, I move that the Board of Education adopt the resolution in support of the IDEA Full Funding Act as presented.
Thank you. A motion has been made by trustee Schindler. Is there support for this motion?
Support trustee Goodrich.
Supported by trustee Goodrich. Any discussion on this item? I
hope it
understand there
works.
is a resolution that needs to be read. I'm sorry, did I miss someone?
I apologize. I just said I hope it works.
Oh, okay. There is a resolution that needs to be read. Dr. Zachary Ross, would you like to read the resolution?
Thank you. Whereas, one, the Ypsilanti Community Schools recognizes the need for a strong investment in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. And two, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was first enacted in 1975 to help ensure that all students with disabilities will have access to a free, appropriate public education. And 3, with the enactment of IDEA, the United States Congress committed to fund up to 40% of additional cost of special education, therefore promising to provide up to 40% of the national average per pupil expenditure, which is currently estimated at $13,828 by the U.S. Department of Education. And 4, since IDEA's enactment more than 45 years ago, the current federal investment in IDEA is less than 14%. And 5, the Ypsilanti Community Schools and many other public school districts throughout the United States educate a growing number of children who are identified as having a disability that is now more than 7 million. And 6, our nation's school districts face an increased demand for greater resources to fulfill the needs of students under IDEA, including those for students affected by multiple disabilities whose individual education plans require more resources. And 7, with each increase in the IDEA child count, the Ypsilanti Community Schools Board and others throughout the country continue to adjust their budgets to accommodate this increased need and ensure that each child educated through IDEA receives the appropriate supports, with some school districts dedicating 40% or more of their general education budgets to special education services. And now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti Community Schools Board supports the IDEA Full Funding Act that will help strengthen the federal investment in special education by authorizing a 10-year plan to fully fund the federal share of IDEA, and that the Ypsilanti Community Schools Board urges Congress's strong bipartisan support for and passage of the IDEA Full Funding Act, and that the Ypsilanti Community Schools Board remains committed to providing students identified as having a disability and their families the supports they need, and acknowledges the intergovernmental partnerships among the local, state, and federal levels of government critical to this shared investment in our children.
Thank you, Dr. Zachary Ross. To repeat, a motion was made by trustee Schindler, supported by Goodrich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next, that takes us to the second public comment portion for this evening. Ms. Haynes, are there any public comment? Thank you. First, we have Michael Shurston.
Good evening. I'm requesting the immediate and permanent end to universal masking and all other COVID measures at the school district level. I understand that there may be legal mandates in the future from the county, state, and federal level that the district must follow, but the district is in no position to make medical or public health decisions of its own. The current mandate has been maintained beyond the legal requirement of the Washtenaw County Department of Health based on various recommendations. On February 11th, we were informed that despite the mask requirement from the county expiring, the district had decided to maintain all existing county protocols, which included that universal masking in schools remains strongly recommended. This seems to no longer be in effect, is not present on the county website, and yet the district mandate has remained. On February 25th, YHI and YMA informed us that masking would remain while we were at high risk level, according to the Michigan Safe Start map based on CDC metrics. That same day, the CDC abandoned those metrics that had been based on pre-Omicron case levels and replaced them with COVID-19 community levels. According to those, we are at the lowest risk level with no mask recommendation for the general public at all, and yet our local district mandates remain. As mask requirements have been removed around the country, there have been conflicting recommendations on the federal, state, and county level. The only consistency in district decision-making during this time has been to rely on any recommendation that justifies continuing the mandate. When the county recommendation was to continue masking, that was cited. When the CDC recommendation was to continue masking, that was cited. No mention was made when those recommendations expired, and the only recommendation that supports your position is the Michigan Safe Start map which is acknowledged by the state to be out of date, no longer based on CDC guidelines, and pending update. The mask requirement has been maintained without any current public health recommendation at any level of government, and you have expressed your willingness to continue to do so until at least April or the end of the school year, or possibly indefinitely. While the requirement previously was said to be based on public health recommendations, it is clear now that the district simply wishes to continue the requirement as long as possible. In Washtenaw County, weekly new cases have dropped consistently for more than 2 months, down 95% from the peak of more than 5,000 on January 8th to 225 the week ending March 5th, lower than any week since July 31st, 2021. Weekly hospital admissions in the county are at the lowest level since September. These are the best numbers we could possibly expect, and yet the best offer from the district was to continue the requirement against public health advice for at least another month. The Board of Education is not a public health agency and has no expertise to make public health decisions. It is one thing to defer to a public health recommendation as justification for a mandate, but an entirely different matter to maintain the mandate in the absence of any recommendation. At your last meeting, I advised that you are not obligated to maintain the mandate even with the county recommendation. Now my position is that you must rescind the mandate, considering it is not recommended by any public health agency at any level. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Amanda Smith.
Hi there. Well, I appreciate his passion, the passion of the other commenter. I really appreciate the compassion this group has shown toward our community, the opportunity to teach my daughter compassion by putting a small piece of fabric on her face. Thank you for listening to what the community needs. I am personally immunocompromised, and I live in a household with a healthcare worker. We don't need any additional risk, and we don't need to spread any additional risk to other people. I recently sat in a meeting with 3 brilliant women of color who are strong, fantastic leaders. And the topic of vaccination came up, and these 3 women schooled me on how my experience of healthcare is different than theirs. Our population at YCS is different than the rest of Washtenaw County. The data that we use needs to be dependent on our own population and not some state mandate beyond us. So I'm very appreciative of everything that you continue to do to help keep my child, my family, the rest of our community healthy, and to teach her and the rest of the children in our community how to be good people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, that takes us to discussion item. We're at number 15, board, and that is our subcommittee reports. Are there any subcommittee reports at this time? Oh, I know we had quite a few at our last meeting. Go ahead, Trustee Gaisley.
There are fewer subcommittee meetings than at our last meeting. I actually missed the YCSF meeting because it was at the same time as our small group meeting. So that was my bad, but the YCSF meeting did happen. It was relatively brief, and I did share the scholarship application form is now public. And I did share it by email with all of the board members earlier today. And so we would love for you to go ahead and share that out, encourage our graduating seniors to apply for those scholarships. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Goodrich, and thank you for following up with the board about that information that came up at the last meeting.
I'm Trustee Gaisley.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said Goodrich.
I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
And I looked right at you, and you so graciously said, Trustee Gaisley. All right, I apologize. Any other reports? Okay, seeing none, that takes us to board superintendent comments. Any board comments at this time? Yes.
Trustee Townsend, I do want to just remind everyone here that the district, and I know the superintendent probably had mentioned as well, we are having our virtual annual Realtors Breakfast this Friday at 9 a.m. via Zoom, and then I believe it should be aired live via Facebook, and that will be on Friday, March 18th at 9 a.m. What is important about this Realtors Breakfast, it is open to the public. Even though it says Realtors Breakfast, it is a good resource for our community. And what I would like to also emphasize is that we will be having special guest speakers talking about the resources that are here in Washtenaw County in funding for new home ownership. And that is Flag Star Bank, Bad Credit is Childish, Ann Arbor Housing Commission, Habitat for Humanity, Old National Bank, and realty experts. What's important for people in the public to know about this event is one of the things when we talk about the whole child, one of those things is it has to do, housing is very important. We know we have a large population of students that are considered homeless or have a major barrier with housing. And so what is good about YCS is that we acknowledge, you know, that when you talk about the whole child, we need to talk about those things. And I know my experience as a child growing up in affordable housing, we moved around a lot. However, when I was able to secure housing, I noticed that there was a change in my performance as a student. And that was because I had the security of having consistent housing. So this is something that I definitely would encourage board members to attend, and please share with your network and just try to invite as many families, even students can attend as well to learn about these things. Everybody on this list is a partner with the school district. I want to emphasize that as well. We know we just had Bad Credit is Childish with Michael Vick come out and talk about financial literacy a few months ago. And so if we begin to teach our children the importance of a dollar, that will change the trajectory of their lives on how they spend money, how they make money a resource for them, and how they continue to invest that money, not only to help their families, but also help the community. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing you all.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Yes, Trustee Goodrich.
I just have a really quick one. Last Thursday, I, along with Trustee Townsend and Vice President Lee, were able to attend the WASB Social Emotional Learning Workshop. And that was a great event, and I appreciate that we had the opportunity to take part in that together. But I also wanted to lift up some things that came out in the small group that Trustee Townsend and I were in, and the appreciation we heard from outside of our district for the kinds of events and partnerships and just the ways that our district is there for our community. And it just one small way on top of many of the big ways that this district's assets and achievements are being highlighted and recognized from outside of our community. It was really great to hear and great to have a chance to celebrate the work that you all are doing.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Yes.
Thank
Trustee
you.
Langston.
I actually have, I have three. I have one that appreciation and two just kind of small comments on the meeting. First, the appreciation. I want to really express my my gratitude to Ms. Searcy and the transportation team, to Solomon and the IT team. Our bus app is working again. It was down for 3 weeks or several weeks. But really, like, for anyone, any parents out there who are not using this, for anyone who's got their child taking the bus, it is a game changer. And so having it back and having it functioning again is really exciting to me and my family, and probably to a lot of other folks. So thank you, everyone, anyone who was involved in getting that working again. Thanks. My other two very small meeting issues. One is that, you know, when I first joined the board, we had actually moved the field trips up in the agenda so that they were right after the consent agenda and prior to our discussion items. And I should have noticed it before during this agenda, and I just completely missed it and didn't ask to amend the agenda. But I was wondering if we might make that part of our regular policy again, when we know that we're going to have a guest, to bump them up right before the consent agenda. And then my second question is a question, I guess, for the IT team. I greatly appreciate how much better this Zoom experience is. I appreciate the audio and how we're getting better every single meeting at making these meetings accessible to the public who can't attend in person. So my one request is, I wonder if we might be able to share the PowerPoints actually to screen share them to the actual meeting so that folks who are watching at home might watch those, see those PowerPoints a little more clearly. So just small things to continue to make us better, but really appreciate everyone who's worked on making these meetings virtual. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just make a quick comment about the field trips. You are absolutely right. Our policy was to make sure that we didn't have our guests waiting until the end of the meeting to wait for field trips to be approved. And we had quite a few additions for this agenda that were added on. So we will make sure that we are mindful and keep those at the top of our agenda. So thank you, Trustee Gainsley, for bringing that to our attention. And I'll defer to Dr. Zachary Ross about the IT, because that is really not even nowhere near my expertise. So I have no idea if we can do that when we're Zooming.
I'm
Can we?
seeing affirmations for that.
Okay.
So yes, and also this time it was a little different because it was a field trip, but then there's also that spending of the grant. So there were
Right.
two action items. So it's kind of tricky to know for sure. But thank you for that reminder.
Other board comments? I think I'll just mention that I am so appreciative of being able to have the space. So this is a shout out to technology for making it happen at 5 o'clock so that we could all gather and watch because our board meeting obviously conflicted a little bit, but not really, because we were able to gather together and watch the Nap It at Night presentation. So thank you, IT, for making that happen for us. And just a huge congratulations to all of our students, our winners, our presenters, Shoshana De Maria, for always graciously taking on this role of making sure Nap It at Night continues to be held up in our community, and our families, and all of our teachers and our staff, everyone who contributed to making this event possible, and our superintendent, of course, and to the mistress of ceremonies. I have to give a little shout out to my daughter, since it's Miss Kaden Hawkins, and I hope she's not watching, because she'd probably be mortified that I'm even saying her name and giving her, but she did a wonderful job, her and her master of ceremonies, Zion, being the master of ceremonies and the mistress of ceremonies. So I just wanted to give a shout out to both of them. Dr. Zachary Ross.
Thank you. And I was looking for this flyer because I wanted to start off with the students, but since I need to have the flyer of, I don't know if I should to take over something that you might have wanted to say, but I was just so proud to go this week. You know, we normally we talk about our students and our staff, but our board members, first of all, I just reminded everyone this week in my board update to the board that this is Women's History Month. And each one of you, as I was reflecting there, writing the board update, I was like, look at these women. It's Women's History Month, and so often we go outside, but we don't look in the mirror. And we've got so many history makers. It might be because, of course, all these wonderful things in the community that you do, that's kind of probably how you got elected, just saying. There's a lot of evidence out there for that. However, you might have been the first, we heard today, Trustee Townsend, the first in her family with certain things, and you might be the first in your community. You've been the first. You have always throughout life, when I talk to each one of you, you've broken down barriers and made room for others. And I think that our students should look at this 7-member women-led board. I think that our community should look at this individuals, not just the board as a whole, because I know you always state how you work collaboratively, but individually, each one of you, I know I wrote it, but I wanted to say out loud that I'm just proud to serve next to you, alongside you, because it's just truly a time during Women's History Month to think about the history makers on our board. So thank you for your service. In addition to that, I was looking for this flyer here. Can't see. I just want to congratulate Trustee Townsend. I was so excited, and congratulate Trustee Fields for leading her with her group, the National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women's Club. I could see it work. The Ann Arbor Club. And so that's Ann Arbor IPSI clubs, the 2022 Women's History Month. They had Around the Way Girls providing healing, promoting hope, and the jewels of the neighborhood. Isn't that just beautiful? And so one of the panelists and honorees was our very own trustee Townsend. She did amazing. And it's just, you know, again, the example, because our students, our families, and our parents see our board members in the community, and it's not just sitting here. It's all, you all are there at so many things. And I just wanted to just give an example of this Women's History Month. And the example of this board came and sat and watched and supported Nap It at Night right here in this room, bringing your own dinners and participating if you couldn't virtually, even as you were coming into the room. And so thank you for that support of Nap It at Night. I know that this district has supported the program since its inception. And again, I know that our board president mentioned it, but to Kaden and to Zion for being masters and mistress of ceremony, you know, they train them up, right? They're training, you're giving the example early, not just having the adults lead the way, but truly allowing our students to lead us. And so I thank Ms. DeMaria and the committee. And congratulations to Mr. Alvarado, assistant principal at the high school, Ms. Geraldine Lynn, who does our instructional technology, and Ms. Kier Ingram for our IPSI Connected principal for being honored tonight. I truly want to thank the students, the staff, and the community for completing the survey. I hope that you heard about all the examples today, you know, that people read the responses and, you know, we didn't just look at the numbers. I can tell you, I went and talked to student council last week before it was due. And I'm like, tell your friends, tell them to complete the survey. And so we didn't just send it out. We did ask the students, we reminded them. Personally, I asked them, can you please yourself as the leadership team, can you tell your other students to complete the surveys? And so we're just happy for, as Trustee Gainsley talked about the response. It might seem low outside, but as you know, when you see, and they'll send out large surveys, the response to surveys aren't always large. And so for the number of persons we have, I was very proud of that. We want to congratulate again seniors Nyla Hood and Alexis Cooper. They celebrated their senior night at their last basketball game. And I know people saw Alex Cash sending it out, but we wanted to make sure just to lift them up again. They won that game against Adrian on February 24th. Alexis plans to attend Florida A&M, and Nyla is undecided, but her top three choices are Kettering, University of Michigan, and the University of Pittsburgh. We just can't wait to see where the future holds. And while we say that, we also are thankful for the scholarship season, and there are a lot of scholarships that our students are eligible for. So I'm just excited to know that we have the support from our partners in the community for our students. Thank you, families, for applying for those scholarships. We don't want people to give us scholarships and not applying. And so if there's help needed, we've got counselors and success coaches and college coaches at the high school that'll help them through. We just want to apply for those dollars. Congratulations also to IPSI Community High School students, Renee Lett and Katie Salzar, for passing their CNA state exam. We know those exams are difficult, and we know that, again, that's part of our hope, not just to give you a high school diploma, but preparing you for life. They're able to go out and do so much with that. So congratulations. Also, as we heard today, the RCTC Culinary Arts and Bakery Science NASA Hunch Culinary Challenge team has been named top 10 in the United States. Top 10. Yes, they'll be traveling to Houston, Texas, and that's the field trip thing that, as long as you approve it, no, just at Johnson Space Center to prepare a meal for astronauts and the Johnson Space Center Food Lab team. The other 9 teams competing are from all around the country. And so this is not a shabby thing, and we're very, very proud of them. The winning team, however, like once they go over there to Texas will receive a full ride scholarship to Sullivan University, the National Center for Hospitality Studies in Louisville, Kentucky. And we know that will be a game changer. So congratulations to Chef Gardner and the students. We're so proud of them. And then last but not least, congratulations to Ms. Ott's class at Erickson Elementary. They won an MVP award from Imagine Nations Literacy Bowl. We know, we hear about Imagine Learning, right? Imagine Learning serves thousands of classrooms and millions of students every day with Imagine Learning and literacy, and her classroom ranks top 30 in the country. So congratulations.
Yes.
If you don't mind, Madam President, but when you were talking about the scholarships and stuff, are those links, are there links on your website to those? To the different, because we had the Divine Nine and everybody was offering all these scholarships, even my club, the women's club, we offer one too, but do you guys make that available on your website so people can go to the links for those areas and prevent them?
I'm not sure. I'll check on that and get back to you. I know they do have it somewhere at the high school for the students, but I'll find out about the links.
Yeah, because I think that'd be helpful too sometimes for those parents who may not want to come up to the school, don't have it, but if they can just click on the different sites and be able to access that.
That's a good
Madam
suggestion.
President,
Yes.
in the
trustee
original
Townsend.
flyer, there was links but it's in PDF format. However, I will work with Alex and her team to get all of that information over.
Thank you.
Thank you. And it's on YouTube. Is it YouTube?
It is on YouTube as well.
And
And
if you got that link, but
all of
anything
them.
that might be on the Gibson's website would be very
That
helpful.
can
Yep.
link directly to it. So,
Yep.
yep,
Yes.
absolutely. Any other comments from the board? Superintendent?
Yeah, that was a good one, too.
Our next Board of Education meeting is on April 11th at 6:30 PM. If there are no other comments, we are adjourned at 8:48 PM. Have a good night.